Hello, YNABers. My name is Jesse Meekum, and this is podcast number 3 for You Need a Budget, where we teach 4 rules to help you stop living paycheck to paycheck, get out of debt, and save more money. This week, we're going to talk about rule number 2. We call it saving for a rainy day. I actually talked about this last week when I spoke to some financial advisors for WealthGuard advisors out in California, and we were talking about the most important number for retirement. And that most important number is not the nest egg, but is the monthly expenses. How quickly will you burn through your retirement is much more important than how much your retirement is. Of course, the second one's important, but that first one can make or break you. So we talked about that out in California near Sacramento. That was with WealthGuard advisors, and had a good time. Spoke to their advisors, and then we had a client meeting that night, and I taught the clients rules 1 and 2 for You Need a Budget. It went pretty well. I enjoyed myself quite a bit. If you are an advisor and you are interested in having me teach your clients or having us maybe run a private webinar for your clients and teaching them the 4 rules that we teach to help people manage their cash flow and obviously have more to invest and follow that financial plan that you've so meticulously built out for them, please let us know. Contact us. We would love to get in touch with you. I've got books I can send you that you can give to your clients. We don't make any money on that. It's purely to spread the word. And we would love to. So if you're an advisor, you have clients, we would love to teach your clients. If you are an advisor and you work, obviously you work under a broker, and if we could teach all of the advisors under that broker, we would love to do that. Anything we can do to get the word out and have advisors pointing people toward the You Need a Budget methodology would be great for us. So contact us if that interests you at all. But I promise that we will be talking about the power of Rule 2, and it's really understanding your true expenses. We call it saving for a rainy day, and we'll get to that in just a moment. When I ask you to list your monthly expenses, I'm setting you up to fail. And it's also to prove a point. I use the word monthly, and your mind immediately thinks of the cable, the rent, cell phone, groceries, gas, different utilities. So when you're sitting there wondering why there doesn't ever seem to be enough money for the month, you'll do this quick and dirty calculation in your head. You'll say something like, okay, our take-home pay is X, and we pay for the gas and groceries and cable and rent. And you end up with, let's say, a $300 surplus in this quick and dirty calculation, and you're as confused as ever. You think your monthly obligations are just this nice, even line. But all of the stress that you unnecessarily carry around proves the exact opposite. Your actual cash obligations are much more like a roller coaster throughout the year. It's up, up, down, 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 and then up, and then down. And then, of course, we get to the holidays where they are way up and you're completely freaking out. So if we can accept that cash outflows are up and down all throughout the year, we can begin to get an idea of our true expenses. Trademark copyright. I'm just kidding. Let's take your semi-annual car insurance premium that's $600. Once every 6 months, that bill comes due and your cash obligations are way up. More than normal, you say, although there's no such thing as a normal month. You scramble to find the money. You cut back. You stress a little bit. You maybe put something on the plastic just to tide you over until things aren't normal. Again, there is no such thing as a normal month. So instead, pretend that your car insurance premium is due every month. This is Rule 2, saving for a rainy day. That rainy day where the car insurance bill comes due. You break up that larger, less frequent expense into month-sized chunks that you can manage. Christmas, let's say you plan to spend $1,200. $1,200 divided by 12 equals $100 per month. You just celebrate Christmas each month. It'll actually make the Christmas holiday much more merry. YNAB is built to do this. No other software does it better. Drop $50 from your available funds into your vacation category in January. But if you're not using the YNAB software, you could use it with pencil and paper. You could use Excel. You could use probably some of our competitors. I don't use them, so I'm not totally confident. Probably could, though. Finagle it in some way. So, yeah, you drop $50 from your available to budget money into your vacation category in January. Then another $50 there in February and March, and by June, you have $300 in there, 6 months times $50, and that's in your vacation category, and you'll be able to go somewhere fancy, maybe Olive Garden. So YNAB is built to do this, and it does it really well. This method is critical, this rule, as part of the method, I should say. You do this with any larger, less frequent expense: property taxes, car insurance, life insurance, vacations, Christmas, furniture, home repairs, car repairs, braces, electronics, birthdays, electronics, anniversaries, iPhones, Android tablets, 10-year class reunions, electronics, to pay for the gym membership for the 6 months leading up to it. You can prepay something like a gym membership. You walk in with cash, and I used to work in a gym, so I know this. You walk in there with cash, and you say, I'd like 6 months up front, and they will just crawl all over. Those reps are paid based on the cash they bring in, not based on the monthly amount that you're stuck with, on the month-to-month types of deals. So you walk in there and say, I want to buy 6 months, and I'll give you, I don't know what's reasonable, but let's say I'll give you $200. They'll do that. They love that, actually. Don't tell them you're doing that right away. Work them down first, and then introduce the cash option and squeeze them for every last dollar. Anyway, you can do that with gym memberships. Julie and I actually bought a gym membership 3 years in advance, which is a little risky. You may be moving. We knew we wouldn't be with school and everything, so it wasn't as risky. But we paid $1,000 up front, got 3 years. It's actually a little less than 1,000. I think it was $990, which would have been, I'm going to brag a little bit here. So for the two of us in a very nice full facilities gym, it ended up breaking out to be every month $27.50 for that was for both of us, or $13.75 each. All because we had cash. So it worked out really well. They do everything they can to have you do that. I mean, they love it. Anyway, I totally lost my train of thought. So yeah, we were talking about different types of rainy day expenses, these larger, less frequent expenses. Your daughter's wedding is one. Car registration, higher heating bills in the winter, higher cooling bills in the summer, a new car, new tires, a new baby, which comes to my mind. Let's see, need we go on? All that stuff between... all that stuff that I basically listed right there, that's the reason you aren't getting ahead. Those expenses, those are real, and those are what eat up that $300 extra you look at and wonder, why you're not getting ahead. It's those types of expenses, those one-off expenses that aren't one-off at all. They're recurring, just not every month. So those plus your obvious monthly expenses make up your true expenses. You've been making spending decisions looking at the obvious monthly expenses, not the whole enchilada. So rule 1, where you're giving every dollar a job, and 2, where you're saving for a rainy day, complement each other extremely well. Actually, rule 1 really starts to shine when you're following rule 2 effectively. And maybe I'll get to that a little bit later. So we're taking your cash flow roller coaster with all of its ups and downs and evening it out. Instead of having some huge outflow obligation a month, you just inch up your obligations for every month of the year. Then that month is no different than any other month. Everything's nice and even, manageable, totally uneventful, and, dare I say it, quite boring, which is just the way we like it. So we've established that rule 1, to give every dollar a job, is necessary to raise your awareness and begin the process of aligning what you want your money to do and what it actually does. As you close the gap between your values and your money's behavior, you'll find the financial peace that you seek. Understanding rule 2, where you're saving for a rainy day, you can see how these rules can really tie together. So setting Rule 2 aside for a moment, don't think about the large infrequent expenses that have caused us all so much grief in the past. Just think about your present obligations. When you're sitting there with all of your dollars, given jobs, you become acutely aware of the fact that if you want to add more to one category, you need to take away from another. This is classic zero-based budgeting, and I did not make it up. It's something that the brightest minds in Congress cannot seem to grasp. So if you want to spend more eating out, you'll need to spend less on clothes. If you want to increase your monthly contribution to a Roth IRA, you'll need to spend less somewhere. But let's assume, again, still ignoring those future rainy day expenses, that everything's working out really well, and heck, you do have that $300 left over after meeting all of your monthly obligations. And even some of your wants and the frivolities are also taken care of, and those are necessary and even good. $300 surplus, all current obligations met, check. Now you look to the future. Do you guys remember that movie Next? It was starring Nicolas Cage. It had a horrible ending, and you're wondering which movie it could possibly be, since Nicolas Cage is only in top-tier Hollywood films. But yeah, it was called Next, if you hadn't heard of it. The premise was that he could see a few minutes into the future, then do things in the present to alter the future events. So you have him next to you, and you have Nicolas Cage next to you in the movie Next, and he can see a few months into the future and sees that you'll be completely stressed and really having to scramble to handle a tire blowout that will happen on your way to work. We almost had one happen on Wednesday, the day I left town, actually. So you have you have this tire blowout far into the future, and I know some of you are thinking, well, you should just avoid the blowout and not avoid the financial crisis that caused the blowout or caused by the blowout, but you don't want to think too hard about this. So my metaphor still stands. So you decide that something you can do in the present is to plan for the blowout. So $50 per month is set aside in the car repairs category. And you don't know exactly how much it will cost. Mr. Cage couldn't see that, but even without his, fortune teller skills totally accurate, you do know that your car will need repairs. And you do the same with Christmas. Let's say $200 per month. And your vacation, you decide that it'll cost $1,800, so you set aside $150 per month. Now wait. Your perfectly balanced budget had, after meeting your current obligations and wants, a $300 monthly surplus. With the car repairs, Christmas, and vacation all suddenly becoming monthly obligations, you're now at a $100 deficit. This is where your present self negotiates with your future self. And this is the magic of Rule 1 and Rule 2. This is where it really hits the road. You now get to decide if what you currently want and what your future self wants can somehow coexist. Because there's maybe some middle ground that can be met. Maybe you'll decide that $2,400 is far too much to spend on Christmas, and you ratchet it down a bit. But you need to be realistic. You can't just say, we'll spend $200. Yeah, right. Or maybe you decide you could pull off vacation for $1,500 instead of $1,800. And that certainly helps. Then again, maybe you could look at your current obligations and decide that you really do want an $1,800 vacation, and you're willing to give up some of those current obligations to get there. Maybe you drop eating out here and there a little bit. You're going to go to a few more matinees or start bringing your lunch to work a little bit more often. There's all sorts of things you could do to potentially cut those current obligations. The beauty comes from the fact that your present self is now able to make decisions knowing full well that there are future goals being affected. Up to this point, you've just wondered why you haven't been getting ahead financially. And now you know. The old you would have just done Christmas anyway, spending too much and most of it on your plastic. The old you would have just done the vacation anyway, spending too much and probably just putting it on the plastic. And you actually feel a little guilty, and a lot of people will even spend to kind of soften that blow. A little bit of a vicious cycle. The old you would have seen the blown out tire as a huge crisis, just a serious financial disaster. You would have perhaps adopted a woe is me attitude, and you wouldn't have been any fun to be around for the next week. So this is the new you that I want you guys to think about. It's future you and present you all mashed together to create the financially formative you. This should feel very good. And this is what Rule 1 and Rule 2 combined will do for you. That is podcast number 3 for You Need a Budget. You can read our book for free, check out our software, read the blog, check out our forums, follow us on Twitter, catch us on Facebook, all from youneedabudget.com. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next week.